There are a lot of things that I used to be when I was younger. I was certainly fitter. I used to cycle between 30 and 50 miles a day in my straight out of university job teaching music around one of the largest counties of the UK. A job I happened to get before actually passing my driving test. I used to be slimmer too. Again, probably down to younger metabolism and cycling rather than driving everywhere, and not being on medication that has a side effect of making me put on weight. But I also used to be a lot more optimistic about the world. Even when I quit my job as a professional musician and became a full-time automotive journalist, I was a lot more optimistic about the future for cleaner, greener, safer and smarter vehicles than I'm sad to admit I am today. Don't get me wrong, I still believe that a cleaner future lies in store for us, that business logic and fear of missing out to the market leader that is Tesla will slowly, inexorably bring legacy automakers around. And I still believe that given all available information presented in as pragmatic a way as possible, car buyers will pick vehicles that are not only best for themselves and their pocket, but for the community and the world around them. But 2020, with all of its claims of fake news and corruption, of alternative facts, and shouting someone down when you don't agree with their point of view instead of sitting down and discussing things like civilized people over a cup of tea, is maybe rubbed off on me. How do I know? My reaction this week to the news that Audi has become the latest in a long line of automakers to announce an acceleration to its electric vehicle development plans, in addition to spending an additional $6 billion on hybrid vehicle development. Rather than excitedly cheer, I'm left wondering who or what has caused Audi to make such a move. After all, it comes just 2 weeks after General Motors announced a similar acceleration to its EV plans, and a sudden switching of sides in the ongoing battle between the California Air Resource Board and the current EPA under President Trump over vehicle emission standards and zero-emission mandates. And just last week, Volkswagen said it was abandoning its motorsport division in order to support the development of electric vehicles, something its CEO recently said was a race against Tesla. To be clear, automakers have been jumping on the electric vehicle bandwagon and promising to expand their electric vehicle lineups or to actually start building them for a couple of years now. But the sudden expansion? I'm afraid I smell something bad, and so today I'm going to look at what might just possibly be causing automakers to suddenly act as if someone has lit a fire where the sun doesn't shine when it comes to plug-in cars. Don't get me wrong. We should all be celebrating any shift of any legacy automaker away from fossil fuels and towards electric ones. More choice in the marketplace means more people switch, and ultimately that is one of my goals in life, to encourage people to switch to cleaner, greener forms of transportation, plug-in electric vehicles most certainly being that at the current time. The timing, though, of these most recent announcements tells me something else, that automakers are, to all intents and purposes, well aware that they are in a corner, and the choice for them now is to either fight or to change their ways. The video I made earlier this week on the debacle that's been dubbed Aston Gate in the UK is one side of that. Legacy automakers and trade organisations are getting together to dismiss plug-in vehicles as not being all that great. I'm not going to rehash that video here because you can watch it for yourself once you're done watching this one, but that reaction, the fight dirty to win, has long been a tactic in the automotive world. It's essentially what Who Killed the Electric Car was about. But on the flip side, well, we've got automakers who are now following the other path, the one that says, if you can't beat them, then join them. The them in this context? Tesla. And maybe a handful of other companies. Some of them even legacy, who've produced half-decent electric vehicles, like the Renault Zoe in Europe, for example. But mostly Tesla. A year ago, Tesla was just about starting to make profitability a sustainable thing. Its share prices were rising and Model Y was preparing for launch. Model 3 was decimating the luxury car market and dominating mid-size sedans too, but at that point, Tesla didn't have an in-production mid-size crossover. But now it does, and Model Y is doing to the crossover market what Model 3 did to the mid-size sedan market, and the crossover market is bigger. What's more, Tesla is going all out building and expanding not one but two factories where it will churn out local production for Model Y and Model 3. And this year it announced its Gigafactory in Austin, Texas, where it will produce the Cybertruck Tesla Semi, and I'm guessing much, much more in the future. Tesla has gone from being a niche market automaker a few years ago to a mainstream brand that's worth more than any other automaker out there. And that's got some of these large legacy automakers scared. As Volkswagen's CEO has noted several times in the past, in order for it to avoid becoming the Nokia of the automotive world to Tesla's iPhone, it needs to innovate and change. Or die. But I think it's Tesla's battery day, and its proposed changes to battery cell manufacturing and vehicle design that I think has many automakers scared. If Tesla can take all of its advancements out of the laboratory and into series production, something Elon Musk has warned isn't easy, then legacy automakers who are still relying on third-party suppliers for their batteries will fall even further behind. Which is maybe why every automaker has now got its own plans to build in-house batteries at specialist production facilities, either in collaboration with a battery specialist or completely on its own. And I am pretty sure that the desire to chase after Tesla is responsible for at least some of the impetus that we've seen in the auto industry of late. Even die-hard Tesla fans who regularly wish death to every big oil and legacy automaker have to admit that Tesla's own goal is to accelerate the transition to zero-emission transportation and energy, and by dragging car companies along in this way, it is doing just that. But as to the most recent of these announcements, I think they're coming out less from fear of missing out to Tesla and more fear of what the future will hold when it comes to legislation. The UK government recently brought forward its plans to ban all sales of brand new internal combustion engine vehicles. The European Union, both as a whole and individual member states, has similarly upped the ante when it comes to banning new internal combustion engine vehicle sales. And any automaker pretending those legislative efforts won't bring about a need to change portfolios are sadly very much mistaken. But perhaps the thing I've noted more than anything in the last month is the fact that these most recent announcements are coming from companies with large operations in the US. Operations which, for the last 4 years, have been able to relax their approach to cleaner, greener vehicles under a president who called climate change a hoax, mocked electric cars at political rallies, and pushed back so many environmental protections in order to benefit the fossil fuel industry that I don't have time to list them all. Come Inauguration Day 2021, the new resident of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue will be someone who actively ran on the need to tackle the effects and causes of anthropogenic climate change. They are someone who ran on the need to give Americans the tools they need to live a lower emission life. Somebody who ran on the need to train up a workforce in the new energy sphere and to invest an equivalent amount of money to the Apollo Moon program onto low carbon transportation and energy solutions. Under President Biden and Vice President Harris, it is unlikely that automakers will be allowed to continue on the same track that they have for the last 4 years. Sure, they might continue to make pickup trucks and SUVs because America is still in love with them, but they will also be expected to dramatically lower their emissions and meet targets that I'm guessing a refreshed EPA, which will hopefully be full of specialist scientists and expert policymakers in their field, will be setting. An EPA that will hopefully return to what it was under a previous administration. An EPA where those in charge aren't former fossil fuel executives and lobbyists. And when you think of it like that, it reminds me that while, yes, some of these automakers may be doing what they're doing because they're seeing the writing on the wall for fossil fuels, and they're worrying about losing more of their custom to companies like Tesla, others are realizing that keeping politicians on side is far more beneficial than it is to try and fight them. While, ultimately, seeing more investment in electric vehicles is a good thing, the last month of changed policies and renewed interest in electric vehicles shows us something else. Automakers, like the rest of us, will try and do the least work possible when they think nobody is looking. which leaves us where? I'm grateful to see more cars coming to market that have plugs, and I think we should support all automakers that are making electric vehicles if doing so means that we can hasten the demise of internal combustion engined vehicles. But it also means I'm stuck looking over my shoulder because the way I see it right now, if the next US president, whomever they may be, happens to disagree with President Biden's new approach, well, we'll be back to square one. And as one of my dearest friends says, if companies were good at looking after people and the planet, capitalism would work. And sadly, even Tesla fails on that one at times. We just don't have time for that. That's it for today. As always, thanks to the folks on my right for being our $15 to $49 a month Patreon supporters. Special thanks to our $50 a month Patreons, that's John Lyons, Regine Fellows, Jeffrey Songster, and Tesla in the Gong. And our deepest gratitude to our $100 a month Patreon supporters. That's Marcel Ward, Reggie Watts, JP Fagerback, Sean Ueda, Will Graylin, and Ian. If you'd like to become an amazing Patreon supporter yourself, you can do so by following one of the links below, and you'll also find links so that you can send us a donation through Ko-fi or Bitcoin if you would prefer. You'll also find a link to our free Discord server, so why not sign up and come and join in the fun? And if you're in need of some swag, don't forget to check out our merch over at Redbubble. After the names are finished scrolling, you will see a new suggestion for a video to watch, so please consider watching it if you haven't, and I will be back very soon. Thanks for joining me, and as always, keep evolving!